Alright, it's a moment of truth. I had a delivery arrive from Scorp Tech, and this, if I'm correct, should be my SSDs. If I can get them out of here one-handed. Sorry about the poor camera work, guys. Lots of foam in here, and lots of shock protection for shock-resistant SSDs. Here we go. Alright, 2 new SSDs. Sorry guys, my normal setup's a little bit out of whack at the moment because I'm in the middle of upgrades. So this one is a 500 gig. This is for a laptop repair that I'm doing. This one's going into my computer or my workstation. Not the highest end of SSDs, but the price was certainly right. So this will be good. And we're still going away here 3 days on. And I've almost got everything backed up here. So this top one here we can ignore. Looks like I've got about a half hour to go before I'm finished backing up. And I've just about cleared off about 2 terabytes over the network, which on a 100 megabit network is not fast. Any case, this will be fun. We'll see what happens. Alright, so now that we've unboxed everything, I've got my new Samsung SSD, 1 terabyte. And I've got a memory stick here, which I have made bootable using a Acronis True Image. And I'm now about to shut down my computer for hopefully the last time with a mechanical drive as the main primary drive. And from there, we will do some swapping around and we'll boot off this and make an image of both my Linux and Windows partitions. Hopefully that works. And apparently the Acronis thing will resize the partitions for us, but I'll have a look once we're in there. For now, I need to go over here and pull out that upper drive there, and then probably stick the old one in with some double-sided tape because my drive brackets don't use screws. So let's see how we go. Alright, so this is my main hard drive. This is my secondary. They're both 2 terabytes. Now, I've backed up a lot of stuff onto this and also onto my backup server. I'm going to unplug this just so I don't accidentally write to the wrong disk. I'm going to unplug my main drive, and we want to remove this as well. So let's pull this drive out. Where are we? Got to remember how these actually come out. It's been a while. Okay, so this one is my existing main. It's going to go onto the other channel here so that we can make a clone of it. I should probably pull these power leads out of the way while we're at it. They're all tangled around. I don't really want that interference. 50 Hertz mains voltage is pretty nasty on that. Now, geez, this is tiny. Technology has moved on, hasn't it? Well, it's certainly moved on from what you used to store 20 megabytes on, which is this old MFM hard drive. So let's get my SSD in. Now we'll take our USB memory stick. I'm going to plug that in the front. And now let's see if we can boot from that. Okay, I'm in the temporary boot menu. And it has recognized the new Samsung SSD. We're going to boot from a USB device. I'm hoping that the only USB device it can find, and it says it was starting Acronis image load. Here we go. Here's our boot options. So we'll have a bit of a look at this and see what we can do. I'm going to do a little bit of learning off camera. This is the first time I've run this software. We're in the bootable environment for Acronis, and I've gone to Tools and Utilities, and we're going to clone a disk. Now it says the automatic. It says all your partitions from the source hard disk will be copied to the target disk in a few simple steps. Your existing partitions will be automatically resized to fit the target disk. Well, you know what, being as this is non-destructive to the original source disk, I can always put that back in. So let's just try automatic. Now I did want to Okay, so that is, we're not going to do the store and go. We're going to take our 1 terabyte disk. I can't obviously get that wrong because I've disconnected the old one. So it's our source disk, is disk 2. Okay, let's see what we do from here. Again, I'm kind of learning. I've done similar things like this in the past, but never with the Acronis software. So I'm still kind of learning as you guys do here. I've been told by a professional whom I have close association with that this is quite a simple process, and so far it looks that way. But we'll come back after it's finished to thinking about this. Alright, well, it took about 15 minutes to have a good think about the source disk, and now we're up to selecting the destination disk. So you can probably see on the screen here. So we're selecting our SSD. Currently not formatted or anything, which I'm pretty sure it was going to mess up anyway, so it wasn't worth formatting it. Just plugged it straight in. And so this is probably going to think about it for a while, so we'll come back. Alright, took about another 10 minutes, but we're back at the source disk, and it's just giving me a brief look at how the remaining layout's going to come out. My original partition, which was about 1.7 terabytes, is going to be squished down to about 881. That's alright. This NTFS one here is going to remain at 460. That's a recovery partition. This is my Linux one, which is going to be shrunk down slightly to about 38 gig, and the swap space, which was originally 12 gig, is going to remain about that. So it's smart enough to know not to resize a swap space drive or partition, and it looks like it's proportionally shrinking all other partitions to a certain percentage. But you know what, I think that's actually a pretty intelligent way of doing it. That's how I would do, and so I think I'm probably going to tell it just to go ahead and do this. So I'm using the trial version. I thought so. Alright, we're going to have to go back and buy this. We'll be right back. Well, I've just been through the whole rigmarole of paying for and registering the software. And before you get on the comments, yes, I know there is another way to do that, but this is a video that's going to the public. I've got to do things properly. Anyway, that aside, it's warning me now that it's going to change the parameters of a Linux partition, and it won't be bootable. It won't set the boot flags, which is alright. I can go back in with a third-party Linux distro later and fix that. That'll be fine. Well, just a quick update. It's now giving me an estimate of 24 minutes. I am highly skeptical of that, but we'll see. Well, a half hour into it, it's changed to 30 minutes left. So I was correct to be skeptical, but it is making good progress. As you can see here, it's probably about 1/3 done already, so not too bad. We'll see how we go. Well, we're down to the last 3 or 6 seconds, I'm not sure which has clearly taken more than 3 seconds. This might be a Linux environment that I've chosen for this boot stick, but it still behaves like a Windows environment. 2 seconds. That took a while. Let's see how long 2 seconds takes. I think that's 2 seconds like my daughter when she says, I'll just take 2 seconds. Oh, it was 5 for a minute there. Well, I think we'll try this again in another few seconds. Well, it's been a few Microsoft seconds later, and it doesn't know what to do. Still thinking. Oh, it might have 1 second. Might. I'm going to catch this, even if I've got to have my apprentice in the background and making lots of noise. I'm going to catch this finishing. All up, actually, to be honest, has taken about probably 2.5 hours. Probably largely attributable to the fact that I cleared out something like 1.4 terabytes of data. There we go. That's finished. Successfully cloned. Alright, so the next thing I'll have to do is put all this back in place, and then probably log in with a bootable Linux disk and set all the boot flags on my Linux partition, but let's see if it boots Windows. Okay, we're just waiting for things to shut down here. I'll go over a couple of things. I'm going to mount my SSD with some aircraft grade aluminium foil tape instead of double-sided tape, mostly for its thermal properties that will probably assist. Okay, it's trying to boot Windows at the moment, so I'm going to force the shutdown because we want to make some changes. Alright, so let's disconnect our secondary drive and we'll put our SSD up here. So we want our, I'm going to have to duck around the camera here. We want our old 2 terabyte drive with a lot of the backups on there. And my apprentice is having some box trouble apparently. Now this is probably not the recommended way to mount this, but there actually aren't any screw holes that will correspond with my SSD in this bracket. So this is a temporary fix until I find something better. But this will allow some good grounding at least, and a bit of thermal dissipation. It does mean it's relatively easy to remove for whatever reason. This isn't quite going to plan the way I'd hoped. But anyway, let's hook our mount back in. That seems really odd. I feel like I've just bodged something up. But anyway, let's see how this goes. We'll remove our bootable stick and we'll fire up. So let's see how quick this thing is to boot by comparison. Now I did take a speed test for boot previously, and it was around about 4.5 minutes to a useful state, in that I could get a start menu up, and probably about 15 minutes in total before I could actually use the system reliably. So this will be interesting. I am using a Grub bootloader, which is a Linux bootloader. And that then launches the Windows bootloader from there. I managed to achieve this by actually upgrading from an earlier version. Now the BIOS here seems to be taking its time. That's not unusual. So here we go, here's our Grub bootloader. I'm happy to see that. It means it did clone all the boot records and everything, the master boot record properly. And of course my keyboard doesn't work. My good old Logitech doesn't work in the DOS. I'll need to enable. Oh, okay. It's got a partition problem. I'll just slap a key and see what happens. Well, it's going to boot Windows. That could well be the partition flags that it warned me about. We'll see how we go. Well, that was certainly much quicker. Certainly much quicker than it normally takes. And I think at this stage I'm at about 1 minute 30 seconds. Well, that is lightning fast so far. And this is still, whoa, okay. That is super fast. I'm used to seeing it take only a fraction of that. We're at 1 minute 45. I can already load that. I can run all sorts of other stuff. This is super fast. I've just, yeah, so even now, it's probably about useful now. And that's just edging into 2 minutes now in the boot. So I'm very pleased. Well, we'll try some other tests a little bit later on. And we'll video that, of course. I'm going to have a good play with it now. Alright, so now that we've got everything happening, decided to get AS SSD on the job and give it a quick run through and see what we can get here. Now I have one of those Chinese SSDs in a little mini laptop. I'll run the same test on it and see what you reckon. In fact, for comparison's sake, I might even swap out the second drive in this temporarily to test one of the Chinese SSDs in comparison and see what we get. Now apparently I've forgotten to change the language in this again, but I'm pretty sure anybody who's familiar with AS SSD will recognize what these numbers are. Anyway, I'm going to skip through to when this is complete because it takes a couple of minutes. Well, we have our final results here. and not too bad. Significantly faster than the Chinese one, but still not the best, but still a hell of a lot better than the mechanical drive. So yeah. And in the case, what I do have to do now is get on to editing some more videos. And incidentally, some of the videos that took place where this picture of my apprentice was taken, lots of tanks and military vehicles and all sorts of interesting stuff. I've been away for a while, so I've got some catching up to do. So I'm going to enjoy my new SSD and make good use of it with some video editing. I'll see you soon.